Let's go to today's issue. The main issue today in front of the Supreme Court was severability. Mark, what's severability? Well, the word defines itself. That is, you have a statute and the Supreme Court or any court rules that part of the statute is unconstitutional or is null and void for some reason. The question is, does the rest of the statute survive? Typically, what Congress is supposed to do is put a severability clause in their statutes. But they don't always do it, do they, Barney? No. So by not doing it, you have legal experts, quote unquote, saying, well, then it's a slam dunk because the court can't do it for them. What these legal experts don't seem to understand is courts do it. And they do it all the time. And the U.S. Supreme Court has done it. So it's not enough to simply say they didn't have a severability clause in the statute and therefore the court cannot let the rest of the statute stand. It's just not that simple. It's far more complex. But with that said, what you have in Obamacare is a 2,700-page statute. What you have in Obamacare is a monstrosity. You have all kinds of words and sections and subsections and overlapping parts and parts that fit together, and it goes on and on and on. So the question is, how in the world can 9 justices, each of whom has 3 or 4 clerks, do what Congress did not do? That is, read the statute. Because, ladies and gentlemen, none of the members of Congress who voted for Obamacare read the statute from beginning to end. The statute wasn't even completed until about 24 hours before they were forced to vote on it. The President of the United States didn't read the whole statute when he signed it. Staffers wrote it. Special interest groups wrote it. Lobbyists wrote it. So the idea that the Supreme Court, which is a judicial entity, it has judicial functions, is going to now become a legislature and sit down violating separation of powers, becoming super activists, sitting down with a red pen or a red pencil and redlining what stays and what goes, is preposterous. And Congress has nobody to blame but itself. The prior Congress that doesn't exist anymore. 2 years ago, it existed for 2 years, this supermajority of Democrats. It doesn't exist anymore. They determined the outcome of this case. They wrote an unconstitutional bill with the individual mandate. They wrote a bill that was 2,700 pages long. They wrote a bill that was incredibly intricate and complex and confusing and confounding. They are the ones who, I believe by choice in this case, did not put a severability clause in the statute. I don't think they forgot. I think they chose not to put it in because they were hoping that there'd be enough activists eventually on the Supreme Court who, like the liberals would say, well, even if we take out this provision or that provision, all the rest of it stands. Here's the problem. All the rest of what stands? And Justice Kennedy, as you will hear, made it a very effective and important point. Justice Kennedy said, look, if we strike down the individual mandate and the rest of the law stands, it's a very different law because the individual mandate was the heart of the matter or is a critical, material, primary part of the statute. So how do we know what to do? More than that, wouldn't then the justices really be legislating? Wouldn't they really be putting in place a law that the prior Congress had not written? The answer is yes. Wouldn't it be more sensible to say, look, we can't do this. There's this Congress, future Congresses. Let them legislate. We're here to determine what is and is not legitimate under the Constitution, what can or cannot stand. If the individual mandate goes, we can't unleash our clerks as if they're members of Congress to go through this and try and figure it all out. Congress We send it back to you. You figure it all out. And this time you might want to consider actually going through your normal committee processes, your public debate processes, that is, your legislative processes, rather than doing it all under cover of dark at the last minute in a massive bill which nobody read, passing it, and then flopping it into our laps here on the Supreme Court. That is the most logical, rational, constitutional way for the justices to handle it, to say, look, we're not legislating. Moreover, we're not rewriting this law when we take this individual mandate, if we do, and strike it down. The law that's left is not the law that was sent here for us to examine. Congress, all you have to do, if you like what we've done, is then put a new cover on it, pass it. If you don't like what we've done, fix it. Fix it. Make it constitutional.